Donald Trump can no longer hide. He can't hide his Epstein cover-up. He can't hide his horrible approval rating because whenever he's in public, he's booed. And worst of all for Trump, he can't hide his failing health because we know this egomaniac, more than anything, cares about being perceived as strong, as tough, as a big macho man. And the opposite is the case. He has swollen cankles. His hands are covered in bruises. He can't walk straight. He slurs his words. And it's why Donald Trump's recent health scandal is blowing up again after he was caught at a very interesting health moment at the US Open that we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into that moment caught on camera that has everyone talking about Donald Trump's health, I want to start with something else he is desperate to cover up, but isn't working out too well. It's his Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Jasmine Crockett called it out right here.
So what does the Oversight Committee hope to find when staffers review documents?
Yeah, so a couple of things here. I don't know that I'm as confident as they are. I do believe that this is a call to action for the American people, as you were just discussing how upset the American people are on both sides of the aisle. I think that this is a good opportunity for those Republicans that believe that transparency is paramount to go ahead and call their elected representatives. We've seen so many of these senators that have decided that they won't run for re-election because they understand that what Trump is doing overall is absolutely killing their opportunity to seek re-election. So some of these House members, they need to feel the pressure of their constituents. So I say if you're a Democrat or a Republican, make sure you call your House member and tell them that you want them to sign the discharge petition. As it relates to the Democrats, we've all signed, so actually don't waste your time calling us. You're going to need to call Republicans to sign off. I do believe that this is not political, and I do believe that it is a moral issue because there is no way that you could hear anything that these survivors have said and feel like it's political. In fact, we know that a number of those survivors are actually Trump supporters, and they are so disappointed that he has now decided that this is nothing more than a Democratic hoax. Not to mention, we had the Speaker of the House sit and listen to these survivors in a closed hearing, or not a hearing, but a closed roundtable meeting, and then come out and say that the President of the United States was an informant that helped to take down Epstein. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And truly, it only makes people say, no, we really have to dig in. And this cannot just be limited to Comer, who does everything that he can to appease Donald Trump, being the one that is going to oversee this release. As it relates to what we expect to be in the birthday book that they said didn't exist, I have no idea, but I look forward to seeing what's in it.
After hearing such bravely delivered testimony from Jeffrey Epstein's survivors, it is important to remember that Donald Trump is not just covering for himself, but everyone else involved in this scandal. It wasn't just Epstein, and it wasn't just Epstein and Maxwell. This was a whole criminal conspiracy. There were several colleagues involved in every aspect of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse, and Donald Trump and the DOJ are actively trying to cover up the names of those individuals, telling judges not to release them. They're trying to fight the Oversight Committee right now and Robert Garcia with making Epstein's birthday book public because they don't want those names out there. And I'd say that Donald Trump is losing sleep over it, but according to J.D. Vance, he doesn't do a lot of that, which ties into the health moment we just saw Donald Trump have. So I want to take a look at how the vice president describes the dangerous sleep pattern of Donald Trump. Vance reveals Trump, 79, has dangerous sleeping patterns. J.D. Vance has shed some much-needed light on how many hours of shut-eye the President of the United States actually gets on any given night. One thing I've learned, kind of working with him every day, he doesn't have an off switch, the Vice President told Fox News, to the surprise of anyone who's made it this far without actually watching Donald Trump speak. Sometimes the President will call you at 12:30 or 2 in the morning, and then he'll call you at 6 in the morning about a totally different topic, Vance went on. It's like, Mr. President, did you go to sleep last night? Trump is 79, an age at which most people find themselves sleeping more, not less, and at which studies indicate a chronic sleep deficit has a far more pronounced impact on both cognitive and physical health. Rumors about Trump's health, of course, have been fueled by a number of public appearances over the past several weeks in which the president has been seen with swollen calves, bruised hands, and difficulty walking. So an already declining Trump isn't sleeping as much as he should, impacting his cognitive and physical decline. It seems like a person like that, as has been the case with Donald Trump's presidency, presidencies past, an entire political career, might be relying on some substances. And that's why this photo that we saw at the US Open with Donald Trump taking what seems like a pill, it's too small to be a mint. There are some doctors, I don't know what efficacy these people have, it's Twitter, have commented it might be an upper, it might be something for Donald Trump to stay awake. We don't know if it's a pill or a mint. It doesn't look like an Altoid to me. It's too small. But it could possibly be something that Donald Trump is taking, as has been well reported throughout the entirety of his political life and even before, to keep him awake. I don't want to say to keep his mind sharp, but what matters here is that the sight of Donald Trump taking what seems to be a pill is enough to blow up conversation online. We saw Midas Touch say that Donald Trump essentially looks terrible. Of course, he doesn't look good in the photo, and the contents isn't great either. But that is enough to get us talking about the president's health, because that is the state that Donald Trump is. This photo alone blew up the conversation of the cankles, the covering up of the bruises, the inability to walk, the speech that is more slurred every single day. Donald Trump is in such clear cognitive decline that any little hint of a problem with him blows up this entire scandal. Donald Trump can't hear very well anymore. We saw at his dinner with Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates that he needed Melania to tell him what reporters were saying, because he could never hear people correctly the first time. This is a development we're seeing more and more with Trump. But that photo alone is enough to start a conversation about the president's health. That should tell you just how bad it is. But also, thank God we can finally get the mainstream media to kind of cover Trump's health, but the independent media surely is doing it. We talk about Trump's health all the time on this show because I think we should. One, because it gets the White House furious, and that's justification enough for me to cover anything. But two, because we need to pay attention to this. Donald Trump's slipping is very clear. He only becomes more radical and more driven by how his health is perceived. We saw Donald Trump on Friday say that he decided to change the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War after a couple of days away, in which the media thought he was dead. He made that admission that this was simply an ego move, that Donald Trump wanted to appear tougher, so he decided he'd change a name, which seems to be really all his presidency has been about. Donald Trump started it with the Gulf of America, an idiotic decision I don't think anyone sticks with anymore. He's put flagpoles in front of the White House, made jokes about how he erected them, because that's the state of his childish brain. He's destroyed the Rose Garden, likely because he doesn't want his rich buddies getting dirt on their shoes, and he's turned it into essentially an ugly country club courtyard. Donald Trump is really focused on remodeling and names more than anything else, so maybe he should cede the presidential duties to someone who actually cares about our country. But circling this rant into one fine point, Donald Trump is in terrible health, and the fact that a picture of him taking a pill could start a frenzy on the internet shows just how bad it is, but also that he can't cover it up anymore. Not with anything to block the cankles, makeup on his hands. No, it's not working anymore. And it's also not working for him to try to cover up the Epstein files, because Jasmine Crockett continued to call him out.
What do you say to lawmakers who heard their stories and they still refuse to support a full investigation into the Epstein case?
I think they all deserve to lose their seats. I mean, at the end of the day, we swear an oath to the Constitution, and we swear to serve and to protect Americans. And right now, as you just had a conversation about this administration that is not attacking enemies, but has decided that it wanted to be an enemy towards its own American people, this is yet another attack on us. And what type of precedent is it setting? And what is it telling those that are suffering right now as victims as it relates to our elected officials? It says that so long as you have enough money and or power, then you will be protected and not the most vulnerable amongst us. We are talking about people that were children. You played a clip of Miss Farmer who talked about her as well as her sister that were abused in the 90s, and they reported this, and unfortunately nothing happened to the extent that we had survivors that were giving us testimony as late as 2008 when he was absolutely supposed to be incarcerated in Florida, yet he was still somehow managing to abuse women. We have to stand up. I don't know who's in these files. I don't know if they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents. I don't know if they're donors to any specific campaigns. I have no idea. And honestly, it just doesn't matter. What matters is about doing better for not only these women, but for future generations.
So the Justice Department asked a federal judge overseeing the case to deny a request from NBC News unsealing the names of two Epstein associates who received six-figure payments from him in 2018. That's 2 days after the Miami Herald began reporting about his 2008 plea deal. Prosecutors in 2019 said Epstein had helped protect both associates from prosecution in that plea deal. The DOJ then cites privacy concerns for not making their names public. But I'm curious response to that, because aren't their names already out there?
I would assume so. But it shows you the lengths that this administration will go to protect pedophiles, to protect criminals. I mean, I don't know what the American people thought they were going to get when they decided to elect a 34-count convicted felon, but their privacy? Give me a break. You're talking about, if you paid any attention to any of these survivors, you're talking about women that are consistently suffering because of what they endured. And Epstein is gone because of the amount of connections that he said he had. I mean, when you talk about going to the highest levels, you heard that the first young lady obviously had an English accent. They told us about the things that they were doing as it relates to false immigration papers and false marriages. And you can't get through immigration without the federal government, right? Like, you can't continue to abuse women while you're incarcerated by the federal government unless somebody on a high level within the federal government is assisting you in this. No, everyone needs to be held accountable. And if these women have had to struggle with the nightmares and the hate now that they're getting and the hate that they got before, then gosh darn it, if you ended up with a payday, I'm sorry, but you get what's coming to you.
Give me a sense of what you expect this week, timeline-wise, and when do you think the public will learn more?
Yeah, so I really don't want to put out there and say you're going to get this by this date, right? We know that the 33,000 documents that we ended up receiving in our first tranche, which hopefully, we got a lot more coming really soon, because we didn't say give it to us in little bits. But anyway, we know that we have that within our possession, and it took the committee 3 weeks approximately to release it to the American people. So I really don't have any expectations as it relates to a timeline. I will say anything that can slow this thing down if it's under Comer's watch.
We need to be talking about this all the time, and I promise you we're going to be doing so on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.